friends, it's Kristine Vicenti with Queen City Stamp Art, and today I'm back to show you a clean and simple card using the iconic die set from Stampin' Up. This is a brand new die set that actually does not have a stamp set affiliated with it. It's completely on its own, and I'm going to give you a little bit closer look at this because I'm going to show you a couple of tips for prepping your dies before you use them. We're also going to be using a sentiment from the Forever Fern stamp set, which is an oldie but a goodie. I love this one. And we're going to be adding an embossed panel on our card using the Brick and Mortar 3D embossing folder. Now, a little tip I want to show you for using embossing folders when you have a smaller panel of cardstock and you have an embossing folder that has a directional pattern that you might want to keep level. Sometimes that happens. If an embossing folder has lines of any kind, you're going to probably want them to be nice and level. So one of the things you can do is inside, on the outside of your embossing folder, there's a line with the Stampin' Up logo that's along the edge of the folder. And one of the ways that I like to use this is to put my cardstock, my little piece, if I can't line it up with the seam or the crease of the folder, I like to line it up with the line that's printed on the front of the folder. So I line my cardstock up with that line, and then I know that it's going to be nice and straight. And so that's just a quick little tip for embossing a smaller piece, a piece that's smaller than your actual embossing folder. So we're going to be using this embossing folder today. And then when I got these dies, I love die sets, and I really love intricate dies, but they can be a pain to cut with if you don't prep them first. And so you may already know this tip, and if you do, that's wonderful. If you do not, I think you're going to really enjoy this one. So the Stampin' Up die sets come with a little bit of sticky tape, and they're glued kind of to a little piece of cardboard when they come. And they come in these nice plastic sturdy envelopes. So what I like to do is when I got my die set, I took a fabric softener dryer sheet. Now this is just a generic version. You don't have to get like the fancy name brand ones, but I took one of these sheets, and I keep a box of these just for this purpose. And I lay my dies out, and I don't take them off the sheet. I leave them stuck on the sheet with the cutting edges up, and which is how they come. And then I take the dryer sheet and I rub really hard into all the kind of the crevices of the actual dies with my fingers. And I just kind of rub to try to transfer some of the anti-static solution that's on here onto the actual dies. Because what happens is when you run this through the die cutting machine, especially the detailed dies, this really helps to release all the little bits that get stuck and don't always cut all the way through. So this is one way that you can really kind of ensure that you're going to get a nice clean cut when you use your dies for the first time. And so I just kind of go over them and rub, trying to get all those little areas and transferring some of this material onto the dies. Now another way you could do this is to just kind of lay your dies on top of one of these sheets and run it through your embossing machine. But what I found was, I've done that before because that's how I learned this technique. Actually, somebody taught me that. But when I did it, the material, the solution that's on here transferred onto my plate and kind of got my plate all gooky. So I didn't like that. So if you do this approach, if you lay this down, I would put a piece of cardstock too, and just be careful that you don't break your machine with the extra layer of cardstock in there. So anyway, that's my quick and easy tip for getting a great cut on detail dies, is to use a dryer sheet and kind of rub it over the top there. Then what I do for all of mine, and you've probably noticed this when you've seen me show dies before, is I transfer the die cuts from these little sheets that are glued down, so that they're glued on with this sticky tape. And I take them and I transfer them to magnetic sheets that I make myself using magnetic vent covers. So if you have air conditioning like central air or forced hot air heat even, you may have vents in your floor. You can use these vent covers to kind of direct your air conditioning or your heat into different rooms. And I take this material, these are very inexpensive. It's just this like magnetic sheeting that's fairly inexpensive. I can't remember how much it is. I bought these a while ago. These are 5 by 12 inches, and there's 2 in a pack. And I think they were $4 or $5 at Walmart. I can't really remember, like I said, but they're really easy to use. They're easy to cut with scissors. You can cut them with your trimmer as well, but I would recommend using a guillotine trimmer instead of a slide trimmer, because the slide trimmers, the blades, it uses up blades like crazy if you use your slide trimmer. I learned that the hard way, but the guillotine trimmer works perfect for this, for cutting this just to the right size. And then you can transfer your dies to the correct size. I usually kind of measure the sheet that it's already on, and then I cut a piece to be about that size. But then they transfer very nicely to the sheet, and you can pick them off and keep them organized. So that's another little tip. Okay, so we'll move on to the card now. We're going to be using the fern for this card, so this little fern image. And I really love this botanical. I love botanicals anyway, but the fern was really cute. So we're going to make a really quick and easy card. So this is a top folding card. I just took an 8.5 by 11 inch piece of cardstock and cut it in half the long way for a top fold. And we're going to layer on a panel of basic white that I've run through that 3D embossing folder with the brick and mortar. So I'm just going to add some adhesive to the back. We're going to be using a variety of adhesives today. I'm going to keep this a little bit toward the bottom of the card, like that. And then we're going to add some ferns. So I'm going to just put a little bit of adhesive on the back of my fern. You can also use wet adhesive, like wet glue adhesive, which is nice with something small like this. Actually brought mine down to use and forgot to. So all I do is I just flip it over and I add a few little dots of adhesive. You don't need very much at all. This glue is very, very good. And I just put a few dots of adhesive on the back. And then I just glue it together here. Just like that. And then we're going to add a sentiment on here using that Forever Fern stamp set. There's a little hello in there that I like. And we're just going to ink this up. And add, it's a little crooked. Let's try it again. That's better. And then we're just going to trim the end of this like that and pop this up with some dimensional adhesive. Just like this. I'm just going to add this right here. And then to embellish, we're going to use a little bit of linen thread. And we're going to make a bow. I'm also going to show you a stepped up version of this card using some of the other supplies and a few extra layers. And then I'm going to take a glue dot and I'm going to add this to the front of the card. Here. Just like that. And then we'll finish this off by adding one of the elegant faceted gems to the sentiment right here like this. So this is a very quick and very clean and simple card. I'll trim this a little. I really like it. I like how it came out. It's very soothing, I think, to look at between the botanicals and the pool party card base and the embossing. I just really liked it. So then I took some supplies. I took some similar supplies and I created a little bit of a stepped up version. So for this card, I used a white base card with a layer of Pool Party. And before I glued it down, I stamped some leaves from the Forever Fern stamp set. I took this leaf sprig and I stamped this in Pool Party ink in a few spots. Then I layered on the brick and mortar embossed piece. I die cut a So Saffron flower, one of the large flower from the die set, and right here. And then I took the one of the leaves, the solid leaf, and cut two of those in Pear Pizzazz. And I glued those down on top. And then I used a little sentiment panel from the Ornate Frames die set, and I stamped a bigger sentiment on using the same basic gray ink, and popped this up with dimensional adhesive, added that linen bow, and a few more of those elegant faceted gems. So this is a stepped up version because I've added some, quite a few extra layers, some extra color, and it just you know, it's still fairly clean and simple, but it's not really. It's definitely a stepped up version of a clean and simple card. But I hope you like this one too. I'm going to post pictures of this one on my blog, so feel free to pop over to Queen City Stamp Art, click on the blog tab, and you'll be able to see closer pictures of both of these cards in case you'd like to pin them or save them for a future reference. I really appreciate you watching today. Thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed the tips, and I'll see you next week.